Okay, first question. What glue should I use for stud earrings? The answer to that is no glue. We're not going to use glue. I'm going to show you how to make what's called a mechanical connection, and you're going to put the stud, which looks like this. Okay, just the stud back, we're going to put right into the earring. Okay, so no glue. I don't like to use glue because glue makes things fail over time. Yep. And when you watch our videos, make sure to thumbs up the video because that actually lets YouTube know, like it signals to YouTube that the video is good, and then it shows it to more people who are searching for polymer clay videos. And I'm gonna just jump right in. Okay, so let me flip my camera to my work desk. Okay. So what you're looking at right now is our stud jig, and I'm going to be using this because this is a fantastic tool for assembling your studs and then baking them. And this is one of the Create Along stud molds, and this can be used. You may get yours in an orange color, just because we like to brand them. The one that I have here is like a prototype, and it's in clear silicone, but it's the same silicone, okay? It's just not colored. So this is our fancy stud mold, and you can use this for UV resin, regular resin, liquid clay, and polymer clay. So if you like to use liquid Sculpies like this one, you can pour it in here and bake it right in the mold and no problems, okay? This is temperature safe to like 400 degrees, so you can put it in the oven. And then I have a commercially available stud mold that I got at a craft store. This one is made for resin, but you can still use it for polymer. And I'm gonna show you this because some of these have shapes on the front side, and that is the main reason you would want to use something like a stud jig for baking. So we're gonna talk about that. And then these are the stud earring backs that you need to find and source for yourself if you are planning on making studs. So the stud earring is really pretty simple, right? So here I have, this is from the last live that I did. These are all baked, and I really like how this set looks with the scooped out arch and the flower petals. So this is baked, so I'm gonna show you how to do this with a baked piece. And then I also have saved to the side some unbaked pieces because I have this type of earring that I really like to make, and it looks like this. So this piece is baked and this piece is raw because I haven't done anything with it yet. But I like to take an oval and cut it this way so that I can put a jump ring between these two halves and have a dangling piece and a stud. So I will explain that a little better when I put the stud. I'm gonna put a stud on the back of this and bake it. And then I have these pieces which I cut out to go with this. This is from the Deco cutter set. And this is going to be a stud on top of here, and I just haven't baked that yet. So if you saw the last video, you saw me use gold leaf in a swirled kind of bullseye cane, and this is the result of that. Isn't that beautiful? So if you didn't watch that video, go check it out. Okay, I'm gonna make some studs to finish off some of these into earrings while we're talking right now. Okay, so these two pieces are baked. I'm gonna use for this demonstration. You can set these to the side. I'm going to show you how to make a stud in a mold. So let's start with that. So the size of the stud pad, that's kind of up to you and how the earring that you're making is going to look, right? So we've got 3 different sizes here. And I'm gonna say, obviously, the bigger the stud piece, the bigger the pad that you can use, because we want a lot of metal to be trapped between layers of clay as much as possible, because this is what's going to hold together the integrity of the earring. If you have a very small piece of clay and this is all you can fit in it, the smallest type of stud, that's okay, but just realize there's not a lot of clay around here to capture this post into the clay, okay? Because we're not using glue, like I said. So as I choose a stud, so I think I'm gonna pick this semicircle up here. I'm gonna pick the largest pad that will fit here, which is not this one, okay? This one fits, but then there's no room around it to have a clay to clay connection. So that's too big. And then this one, the smallest one I would say is overkill on how small it is. And the medium one is the one that's gonna fit because there's still room around this whole pad. That's called the pad, this part, the flat part. There's still room around the entire pad for a piece of clay, okay? So let's make this stud and I'll show you what I'm talking about. And I feel like using the newest Sculpey color. Have you seen this one yet? This is called Blackberry Pearl. And honestly, to me, it looks kind of like raspberry, but they're calling it blackberry. So it's a berry color and it's just pretty. It's kind of like a deep dark fuchsia with silver mica powder in it. So it's got a silver sparkle on some fuchsia clay, but it's definitely a dark fuchsia. All right, so I'm gonna just get this moving a little bit and then gonna use it to fill my cavity of my mold. Okay, so I'm gonna cut off a little piece just with my fingers that sort of fits in the cavity, maybe not fully fills it because I want some room to make another layer and embed. I'm going to embed that post. So as I'm kind of conditioning this with my hands, I'm looking at how much clay can I chop off with my thumb here to fill this cavity and not get any cat hair in it with it, because I also have a cat, and leave a little extra space for that post to fit in here. And I might even grab my Extreme Smooth and Sculpt. This is my favorite tool that we carry, to dig out even a little bit more of that clay to make room for the post. So I want this to be about 2/3 to 3/4 filled, but not filled all the way to the top. So I want there to be room, okay? And next I'm going to go ahead and take this post and show you the size that I'm talking about. I want to stick this here and for there to be room all the way around it for clay. So you can see that I can capture and trap this inside of the clay. Now, the other consideration as I look and think about what I'm gonna do with this afterwards, what type of earring I'm gonna make, usually I create dangles. So if I were to use this stud, I'm just gonna pop this out. If I were to use this stud to create a topper, say, for this earring, then I also need room for a hole. I need to put a hole here and a hole here to put a jump ring between them. And from the looks of this, okay, these are just all things to think about while you're doing this process. From the looks of this, if I use this particular post, I'm gonna be very tight and probably not be able to have room to make a hole. So I'm gonna move down to the smaller one and I'm going to put it off center to the top like this. Because what I need room for at the bottom there is room to drill my hole for the jump ring connection. And you don't need a ton of room, but you definitely need some space there, okay? So that's gonna work for this particular earring, and I might even try to get this even a little closer to the top because I really need room for my hole. And eyeball it and try to get it in the middle as much as you can, as far as the center, so that your earring is going to hang centered. And then we're just going to take more clay and we're going to make it fairly thin. And we're going to put it over this post and slide it down. Let me see if I can, can't really get you that much closer. Maybe here, okay? And I'm going to put this down over the post and smooth it out. So I'm capturing it. And then I'll do it again on this one. So you can see that I am keeping this post back on the stud, so I have room at the bottom for that hole I need to drill later. And I'm just taking some clay. This is the size of this piece because I need to push it down over my stud and embed that metal between the layers of clay. And then you can take whatever tools you like and smooth it out so that the back of your earring is flat and smooth and doesn't have any weird lumps and seams on it, especially if you're selling them, because you want them to look nice from all directions, right? And then I also here, while I'm doing this, I have a chance to tell if my mold cavity is full or not, because if it isn't, I can add more clay. So with this one, I can tell I have room for more clay here, so I'm going to go ahead and use it. So if you were just making studs with this mold, you could fill the mold and pop it out. No big deal. But when you're putting the stud in there, you need to finesse it a little bit more on this side of the process. Because normally I would just fill the mold and use a blade and just level it and pull it out. But I can't use a blade when I've got this metal post sticking out of it. Okay, so now I can gently pop this out and I'm going to stick it in here as a support. Okay, so now it's in the jig and I can bake it right on here. What to do if you don't have a jig? Well, if this earring is going to stay flat, you could just turn it upside down and bake it on a tile like this. I don't intend to leave this earring flat like that. I'm going to decorate it, and that is why I like the jig, okay? Ghosts in a mold, Patty, yeah. It's fun to use molds to make little earrings. So I wanted to show you, here's our reasoning for wanting to use the jig as opposed to just flipping something over and doing it, you know, baking it on a tile without the jig. And Elisa just posted a link to the jig in the comments. So some of these fun little molds have like a druzy look effect to the front of them, like a druzy agate. And I'd like to capture that for my earring. So I'm gonna go ahead, this is the Sculpey apricot color. I think that's a very pretty color. I'm gonna put this in here and pull some of this clay off. Now, I don't know about this. I don't know about baking this. I would not bake in this because I don't know what silicone brand it is. It came from someone else's store. Yeah. So I'm definitely not going to bake in this mold. But I can pull out, like I just pulled out a little bit of the extra clay, and I'm going to smooth it over and stick a post in there. I think I will plan for these posts to just be posts without drilling any holes or anything. So I'll use this nice big pad like that. And then I've got this extra bit of clay. Hi, Roz. And I'm just going to go ahead and poke it over this and make the whole thing flush. And I'm going to add glitter, maybe glitter to this one. So the backside, you just want to pay attention to that so that your backside isn't lumpy and looking silly and yucky. If you were going to be giving this as a gift or selling it to someone, you want it all to have integrity and look nice and be finished on the back. A lot of people don't finish the backs of their pieces, and then that's sort of like a mark of professionalism. Make it look nice on the back even though someone's not looking at that part, and then your pieces automatically look more professional. So I'm just shaping it up back into the hexagon before I pull it out of this mold. All right. So as I pop this out, you'll see on the front it has a pattern. So it kind of looks like a druzy. And I would not want to take this earring and turn it upside down to bake it. I definitely don't want to do that. And that's why you would want a jig. So I'm going to put that there. I think what I'm going to do with this one is use, I think I will use like a gold powder on it. So I'll show you that. I'll just quickly make up the other companion. And like I said, I'm just kind of peeling back some of it so that it's not full to overflowing, so that I can have a little space left to add this pad and put clay over and around it. We just don't like to use glue. Glue can interfere with the structure of the polymer, and over time, you know, like it might hold together today, but over time you might see things deteriorate, and then, you know, that's upsetting when something that you made starts to crack or fail a few months down the road because the glue or the solvent or whatever you put on it seemed like it was okay and then it wasn't. So we just don't like to put glue inside the clay because this way works great. As long as you take the time to make sure your clay is all bonded all the way around, that it's not paper thin, because someone is going to be touching this and putting it in and out of their ears. Elisa says she did art shows during the summer and did earrings and magnets, and her stuff would drop apart because she was using E6000, which everybody says, oh, that's a great glue for polymer, but it fails in the heat. So, you know, that's why as much as possible, we just like to stay away from the glue. All right, so there's your post, and we'll pop this one out and put it in the jig. This is super fun, little designs. And these I made in our other geometric mold. So this one has some fun fancy shapes, like there's a flower here, leaves, heart leaves, and the semicircle and like topper designs. And then the geometric one has like circle, squared, hexagon, all of those popular shapes, right? And then this one has just these fun shapes that you could never bake properly without some kind of support like this, you know? So that's why we came up with it, because, for example, it might be hard to see on camera, but this one looks like a stud, a metal stud, and it's like a pyramid. So if you were to try to bake this without supporting it from the front, you would have a problem. So I'm gonna pop this one out and show you what it looks like. I'm not gonna be too precious about it because I'm trying to hurry so you're not bored, but here's what this one looks like. See, it's got like those patterns and lines on it, like a little metal stud. And you certainly can't put this way to bake it because it'll just mess it up. So you would need to support it from the front. Okay, so the other thing is, if you don't like how it came out, remember, polymer clay is reusable until you bake it. So you just pull that piece of metal out, and if you had put glue all over that, you wouldn't be able to reclaim the clay because you'd have glue mixed into it. So another reason for... Okay, now this one, I know I want to put a hole because I want to make this a dangling earring. So I'm gonna go ahead and think this through and put my studs closer to the top, and also use gold because I've got the warm metallic color in there from the rose gold copper leaf that I used. And somewhere around here I have that cutter. Here it is. Right, so for this one, all I'm gonna do is take some clay, which I actually have scrap from that last project, and I'm gonna roll it out and use it on the back. Hope says, FYI, I sand both surfaces first. Okay, so what are you? I'm in Florida. Okay. Hope, that's great. I stay away from sanding as much as possible because I just don't like doing it. And it's not really necessary because your clay forms a clay-to-clay bond. It's not like ceramics where you have to score both areas and use water and stuff to get them to stick. This is really not like that. Clay to clay bakes together. You don't have to do anything really special like sanding it first. It's okay if you do, but I like to avoid it like the plague. So there's just a piece, and I'm going to go ahead and put my stud through here and attach it to the back of this. Easy peasy. And this is quite easy because that piece of clay is already baked underneath on the bottom. So it's okay to handle it. Nothing's gonna happen. Right, so just make sure everything is touching, everything around that post is touching and pressed down. Looks good from the front, sides, nothing's hanging out. You can blend with your finger. You can do that. I just don't find it necessary. For adhering baked clay to raw clay, you can pull out your liquid clay or your bake and bond. I just haven't really needed it for myself. If, for example, you wanted to hold this in place because maybe your fingers are a little fidgety or it's harder for you to do what I just did, then sure, take some liquid clay and put it there and stick it down. Bacon Bond is Sculpey's sort of thicker product that's like a clay glue. It's not a glue, it's a clay-based thing, so you can use that as well if that's something that you decide that you would like to try using, okay? But you don't have to use it. All right, so that is how to get a stud on the baked piece. Especially if you cut it out with a cutter, just cut another piece that is the same exact shape and size and sandwich them together. With the stud in between. And while it's like this, you have a chance to fix that. If the stud, like this one, I put a tiny bit off center, so I'm just gonna fix it before pressing everything down. All right. And then for the one that's unbaked, the process is really similar, except that when I cut this, I was cutting it out of a different, you know, size and shape, and I don't feel like making that whole shape again. So I'm gonna grab, I have all of my small shape cutters in this little clamshell here, and I'm gonna find one that's relatively like similar to fill that space. Might be this even smaller one. Let's see. This one's baked, so I can try it out. So I can tell, like up at the top here, that this little curve will work. So let's make some clay to fit over a stud to fit on there. So I'm just gonna cut this out. And I know that it's too long, so I'm gonna chop off some of it because I just need the part that's gonna cover my metal. Okay, so I'm gonna flip this over, put this where I want it, which is gonna be right about there in the middle. And on this piece, I'm going to not worry. Like my aim here is actually to keep this intact as much as I can without, let me see, without wrecking it. So I'm gonna poke this into the middle of this. And put that stud there and press this down gently. So that on this one, and rather than covering the entire back of the stud, I'm just making a little shape at the top. Right, so that's ready to go. Other one is over here. Same idea. This clay you want to be thick enough to hold on to the clay, but not like super thick, right? Because it's the back of an earring and you still want it to be relatively thin. So I'm just poking into the middle of this piece. And putting this on the top back of my earring. And this is raw clay to raw clay. So you don't even need to add a lot of pressure here. It's just gonna, wherever the clay is sticking to itself, it's gonna be totally fine. Now I wanted to show you the reason for the jig being decorating. So let's decorate some of these. Okay. Hot Fix is something that I love to use because I like all the sparkly things. So I like my Hot Fix, I like my Hot Fix stones, and I like my Hot Fix cabochons and stuff. So I'm gonna put one on this hexagon. And this would be pretty difficult to do if I was baking these upside down. Now, you can bake your studs twice, like with this one. You know, the front part was already baked, and now I'm gonna bake it a second time with the back on it. But, you know, if you don't have to, and you can do it all in one go, that makes it a little bit faster and easier. So that's why I'm doing it this way. And then, so for putting Hot Fix on the front, this is a great tool for putting, I'm gonna put some ink on this one. So this is a Brilliance ink, and this is Galaxy Gold. These are called Dewdrops, and they are pigment ink. They're very, very nice, and they actually heat set, so that's a good thing. And here's the thing, if you were to do this, there's no way now after putting ink on there that you can bake it upside down. You've got to do it with it sitting upright. Anyone have any questions or something else that you want me to show you? This is really not as hard as people make it out to be. It's really pretty simple. Just get that stud securely stuck inside your clay. The other thing would be like if you wanted to mold a flower or something and stick a flower on the front, or some other cute thing like eyes on a ghost, you know, whatever, some little decoration things, having your studs sitting right here in front of you like this so that you can add things to the front is super easy and fun. So yeah, that looks pretty and subtle on the apricot ones with the gold ink. It's like a super easy way to just make something really nice really quickly, right? And then for the Hot Fix, these stones are just going to attach themselves to the clay while it's baking. So let me, I'm going to come back here and say hi and read some of this. Read some of the comments while you're hanging out. So, any questions? Yes, make sure there are no air pockets, of course. When you're putting the two pieces of clay together and sandwiching that stud in there, just be careful, right? Make sure that you're not trapping air in there, because then that will make that'll make like the clay to clay connection less, because if there's air between the clay and the clay, then it could pop apart after. Thanks, Hope. So Hope says she likes to do the sanding because she likes some traction for the bond. So sanding is a personal preference. You can sand. Go ahead and sand. I have, the way I sand most of the time is with one of these. This is a rough 100 coarse grit, right? And I just use this if I need to sand an edge off, or if there's like pointy bits somewhere. This will knock them off really fast. These you can get at your beauty store. They're actually made for acrylic nails, so they're made to sand plastics, which is what polymer clay is. Okay, anything else? Oh, you're welcome, Patty. So guys, I'm gonna sign off, and if you have questions, if you're watching the replay, or if something comes up and you forgot to ask me something, post it below and I will answer as best as I can. And I hope that you guys all have an awesome rest of your Wednesday, and have fun claying. Bye guys.